That would be me.
Look who we're hanging with.
Ryan O'Halloran.
Jason David Frank.
Humberto Ramos.
Please do not change channel.
Hello, World Wide Web. Welcome back to the Hangin' With Web Show. I'm GW Pomichter. Thank you so much for logging on and tuning in. If you haven't done it yet, we'd love it if you hit subscribe. There's a little bell over there. You can come back over and over again. We have authors, we have artists, filmmakers, musicians, creatives of all kinds right here on the Hangin' With Web Show. We can't wait to hang with you. We are here at Space Coast Book Lovers in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and we're hanging with author Valerie Willis.
Hi,
Valerie,
nice to
thanks
meet you.
for hanging with us.
Thank you.
Yes. Valerie is the author of The Accidental Guru.
It's
Y'all are wondering about that, aren't you? How do you become an accidental guru?
Yeah, that's part of the Cedric series. I've done so much research and diving into stuff that my fellow authors have started coming to me and asking me the harder questions first, because I'll at least know where to go. Like,
she's become the guru.
I've become the guru.
On accident.
On accident. It just
see
happens.
How that happened. So what drew you to write in the first place? What motivated you to become a writer?
I've always told stories since elementary school. I filled, like 5th grade, I filled a whole composition book of a story of me, and it was always for my friends. So I always included my friends somehow in it, or it was something we were into at the time. And I kind of feel bad because I just did it for fun for the longest time. And then life took me on a tornado ride, like cancer, while pregnant with the first kid. And I'm like, I should brush off dust off that manuscript, that 50K thing that I finished in high school, and that's pretty much what came up with Rebirth. It's actually from high school, and I've been writing ever since. So that's 2009, 2010 is when all that happened.
Wow, that's fantastic. You know, it is. So many of us, and so many of our viewers out there have a lifetime dream, something they've always wanted to do. It just never, life got in the way, they never got around to it. And it's those moments in transition, those moments when we are faced with our own mortality that remind us that our dreams are worth chasing.
Absolutely.
And so you dusted off your high school manuscript. You said, hey, I'm going to publish this.
Right.
And now you're on a journey, a new journey.
A new journey. Yeah, I'm always, in my newsletter, I'm always like thanking the followers, like, thank you for coming along with my author journey, because that's what it really is.
It is.
And it's gathering people who support you and root for you. My husband is awesome. He's always like, all right, I'm going to take the kids out and about. You've got maybe an hour or 2 hours to write. Just go.
15,000 words, here we go. That's right.
Let's go. But it's awesome because it was something I always did. And then it took that moment to shake me. And I'm like, I want to do that. I want to share these stories, not just with my friends, but with everybody. Because it's not just about the stories and the adventures, but it's sort of the lessons that we learn through reading.
Well, a good writer is a truth teller. We tell a human truth, something about the human condition that we're able to pinpoint through our journey and let our characters share with our readers. What has been the most rewarding part for you so far since publishing, since those early days writing? Now you're on this journey, you're an author, you share a table with the lovely Ellie Perez today.
Ellie Perez, I know,
and
she's
so
fantastic.
What has been the most rewarding part of your journey so far?
Like I said, I like sharing my stories, but I think what I like even more is sharing experiences and knowledge I've gathered. So since I've started on this journey, I've also had great opportunities with Ellie Perez. We co-host several workshops together. Writers Atelier with Raquel Henry. She's given me plenty of opportunities and has really pushed. So I've been able to not only dive into writing, but share the different writing techniques. I'll be at FWA conference doing a foreshadowing workshop. Not many people talk about foreshadowing, and it's a really big part of storytelling. And maybe it's because I was a really big gamer and foreshadowing is part of that element of going on quest and stuff. But yeah, no, I just like being able to pass on the knowledge and inspire future writers to chase that dream, to not
And this
give
is
up.
this is an amazing community to be a part of, because unlike any other career path that you can choose, your contemporaries are not your competitors. These are your mentors. These are your friends. And we do want to encourage the next generation of writer, of creator, to follow that dream.
Yes.
And so you also write articles for some sci-fi news stuff.
Yes.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So I do all this research for my books, and there's so much that I can't put into a fictional story that I want to share that's forgotten history. I guess that's why I'm a big fan of Lore by Aaron Mahnke. But I started doing articles for the Sci-Fi Fantasy Network, and I do a lot of mythology. So the first article I did was about the Oracle. Is it myth or is it real? And it's a real person, and they're responsible for writing down the earlier Greek mythology and religions. Like, we wouldn't have these stories if it wasn't for the Oracle and her following shifting things. And they were worshippers first with Gaia, and then they switched to Apollo because that's who the tribes around them were worshiping.
Yeah.
They were smart. And there's this great story about how when the Romans started invading Greek, the Oracle, the head Oracle approached him, and she offered up the 3 books for money because money was becoming the new powerhouse. And he didn't know what she was offering, so she threw them in the fire. Well, she came back the next day with the remaining 3 books. And he's like, wait, before we go through this again, let me look at the book and see what you're offering. And when he realized it was prophecies and future tellings of what was to come and still to come.
Well, I think people,
Yeah, it was
a lot of times people don't understand that the human being is a storyteller. We've been telling stories for as long as we've been gathering together. And the oracles of old were just that. They were stories. They told us, they told us what we needed to hear to drive forward. They told us where we had been so that we could drive forward more wisely at times. And they fed our collective dreams. So if you had a dream for conquest, if you had a dream for, if these were your ambitions, if you were stuck on the farm and you just wanted to go off to great things, you would seek an oracle. You would seek the oracle. In the days of old.
And they give you the tools to be able to do that.
And that's right, because they'd give you the confidence, and they would tell you the story that you needed to hear to write your own story.
Exactly.
And so it's a fantastic, we could do an hour on that, by the way, guys.
That was... Rebirth is the dark urban fantasy, but I'm redoing the cover for the Cedric series. So you can find me at willisauthor.com and keep up to date. It should be coming out later this week or next week.
That's fantastic. We're going to drop links down below. So by the time you guys get to see this interview, you will be able to just go down and click and go over and find all of her books, links to whatever Valerie's doing online.
Yes.
And because there's a lot, you know, so
Accidental guru.
we're going to send you those links, and we're going to make sure that you can find the books on Amazon or any other website that there are. So you are a science fiction fan. You are a science fiction student. Okay, so you know about these worlds that are being created and which ones are good and which ones are bad. If I could drop you into any science fiction universe, but there's only one rule, you have to spend a whole week there.
Right.
Yeah. So I always put that caveat in there because someone once said, "Oh, I'd love to go to Game of Thrones," and I'm like, "No, not if you have to spend a week."
No.
Because you're not going to live past like Tuesday.
Yeah, it depends where you got dropped off at.
Exactly. Yeah, by like Tuesday, you're done, man. So where could we put you? Where would you like to spend a week?
There's so many great sci-fis, you know, and especially since so many have been converted into movies recently, you get to the strong visuals that come with those. That genre
visual storytelling
is
there's a lot of folks out online, and I know you deal with it doing sci-fi news. There's a lot of folks online that don't quite the translation process between literature and film, and between film and radio, and there is. To be able to tell stories in those different ways. I can sit at the keyboard and I love words and I can play with words all day long, but it's really, really hard to take those words and paint a picture
Right.
that can be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours long and still immerse the audience in that world. It's an incredible universe that we're living in.
I think the science fiction universe that it's actually an anime, a Japanese cartoon called Cowboy Bebop. And what
I know that one.
love about it
Yes.
is that you have relics of our time still there someplace. Like there's a whole episode where they're using the shuttle, the space shuttle, and then the Betamax and the VCR argument comes into play.
That is good.
Fantastic.
That's great storytelling.
Yes.
It really is. And I think a lot of times we misplace or trivialize in our minds animation. But remember, most of you that are in your middle-aged or young adult years, your understanding of some of the world's most fantastical grim fairy tales comes from Walt Disney.
Yes.
And the way you got it is in your childhood, and that interest that you might have in the darker adult versions, it stems from that early childhood recognition.
Yeah.
Many of the tales that we share are derivative of Mother Goose.
Mother Goose, yeah.
And so animation and these caricatures of fantasy that we grow up with create a love that goes into our adult years.
Absolutely.
So, if you loved Lord of the Rings, that was born out of The Hobbit, which was for Tolkien a children's story. It wasn't meant, as the epic that Peter Jackson did was a fantastic visualization, but he had to really extend because the Hobbit story is much smaller than Lord of the Rings later on. So many of the things that you know and love come from that love that touches animation, and good science fiction writing takes advantage of where we've been to tell us where we're going. So seeing today's relics in a future world
is fantastic. It's
helps.
Nostalgic in a weird way, even though it's current for us, it still has that, you understand
that
the
sense
nostalgia.
of nostalgia, yeah. And I think it feeds the need that we have to know that whether we're going to a dystopian future or a more Roddenberry future, wherever we're going, it'll all stem from where we are and where we've been. That's all the time we have. We have to wrap it up. So as we do that, I want to say thank you to our partners and our friends at Something Unique Magazine, Famous Faces and Funnies, our great friends over at Krypton Radio, Off the Chain Radio with author Yvonne Mason. Yvonne, we truly missed you this weekend, and we hope to see you real soon. We hope you're doing well. Our friends David and Jake over at Space Coast Comics, and our friends Heather and Brian at Asylum Convention Entertainment Services. And we want to thank you guys for having us in here at Space Coast Book Lovers. We've had a great time. Remember, everybody, subscribe, log on, tune in, and see who we're hanging with next.